Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. So excited to be doing this very important, if I do say so myself, stream about the upcoming elections in Peru and Mexico. Also, just to get a sense of what's happening in Bolivia, where our guest is based, and also talk a little bit about Colombia. And we are joined by our Latin American correspondent. He's got the whole continent covered. Ollie Vargas, great journalist with Quechua News. Welcome to the show.
No, thanks, Katie, for having me on again. Always a pleasure.
Of course, yeah. So you are in Bolivia and want to talk to you about what's happening there. But I thought that, we have these two elections coming up, and you've been tweeting a lot about Bolivia. You've been tweeting a lot about Peru, and it's a really interesting election between two forces that are pretty different. You have the daughter of a dictator, Keiko Fujimori, and then you have someone who is actually a union organizer and teacher, who has a very interesting political kind of identification. So please, yes, tell us about what Pedro Castillo. Oh, I forgot to mention his name, Pedro Castillo or Pedro Castillo. Anyway, tell us about this race.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's interesting precisely because the two proposals are so ideologically distinct. There's no sort of middle ground. There's no centrist liberal option here. What you have on one hand is a far-right candidate, Keiko Fujimori. She's the daughter of Peru's last dictator, Alberto Fujimori, but she was also the first lady during that dictatorship because Alberto Fujimori's wife divorced him before he became president. And so his daughter became the first lady.
Oh, wow.
And that was throughout the whole of the 1990s. So it wasn't that long ago. It's in pretty much everyone who's voting, it's within their living memory, pretty much. So that's one option. The second option is, as you said, Pedro Castillo. And he's an interesting figure. As I said, he was a union organizer of some a wave of strikes a couple of years ago, and he's running for a party called Peru Libre, which means Free Peru, which describes itself as a Marxist-Leninist party. And so you've got these two completely different proposals being put to the electorate, and the polls show that they're pretty much at a dead heat at the moment, with each one hovering around 50%. So we're not sure what's going to happen, but what we do know is that the vote for this far-right candidate is concentrated overwhelmingly in the big cities, where a lot of the sort of liberal, middle-class, or cosmopolitan vote has swung towards her, whereas the Pedro Castillo, the left candidate, wins overwhelmingly in the countryside, in rural areas, by about 72%, whereas Keiko Fujimori wins in the city, in the capital city, with about 67%. So you've got this massive, it's not only ideological divide, it's also urban-rural divide, sort of metropolitan versus provincial divide. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah. And can you tell us more about the legacy of Fujimori? Fujimori, as said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Alberto Fujimori, as you might be able to guess, that's not Peruvian name, it's not Latin American name, it's a Japanese name. They're from Japan originally, and Peru has quite a large Asian community, so that's their background. But yeah, he was elected democratically in 1990, but after 2 years, he did what's known as a self-coup, in which he asked the military to carry out a coup to close down the Congress and sort of all opposition, so that he and the military could sort of govern unopposed. And that went on for 8 years. And yeah, in that time, all of the usual features of a Latin American military dictatorship, thousands of disappearance, people disappeared, killed, tortured, numerous massacres. And that was necessary in part to push through free market reforms, privatizations, building the economic model that Peru has today, and the political model as well, because the constitution that Peru has was written during this period. And that's one of the proposals of Pedro Castillo, is to write a new constitution. So yeah, is in some ways is a legacy on that period, right? You have the first lady of that period on the ballot paper, and on the other candidate is someone who's planning to overturn the foundations of what was left behind by that dictatorship. So yeah, that's the legacy. One of the darkest parts of that legacy is the forced sterilization of indigenous women that happened under Alberto Fujimori. It said around 300,000 indigenous women were sterilized without them knowing. You know, they were told they're going to be given like vaccinations or various other standard procedures, and in the end they're sterilized. And it's because they had this theory that the reason people are poor in the countryside is because they have too many children, you know, and
Right.
if they stopped having so many children, then maybe they wouldn't be so poor. But of course, sterilizing these people wasn't a solution for anything. Indeed, poverty went up, and that's why like Lima is so big, is because like there's this mass migration from the countryside into the cities. And I mean, I used to live in Peru, and something that really stuck out to me was how people from the city in Lima would talk about sort of rural people coming to live there as invaders, as foreigners. Like, oh, the foreigners are coming in to our city, and it's like, well, they're your compatriots, like they're from your own country, but they don't recognize them. That's not how a lot of people see it. So you have this like massive divide in which people just don't recognize other people from their own country as fellow citizens, and that's the reason why you have this divide now, this urban-rural divide now in these elections.
And I just want people to know, because a lot of people will bring up your accent. Ollie was you're not bi-coastal, to quote William Government, but you grew up in Essex, and also your father's Bolivian, right? And so you were.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my dad is from Bolivia, and my mom is from the UK. Yeah.
But you grew up going back and forth.
Well, I grew up in Bolivia till I was 5 years old, and then from there lived pretty much continuously in the UK, and now I'm back in Bolivia.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that because last time when you were on, people had this interesting like linguistic debate about how like your accent was, you know, like a far, like what, as if your British accent was not from growing up in England after the age of 5, I should say. Yeah. But and can you talk about, I mean, has there been any move on her part to disavow her father's legacy?
Well, no. One of her first campaign proposed, I guess it wasn't really a proposal, more of a statement, was that because her dad's in jail right now. Alberto Fujimori is in jail in Peru for human rights abuses and also for corruption.
Yeah.
And one of her first statements during the campaign was to say that she would give a presidential pardon to her dad. And the process of him going to jail has been like over the past few years, and during all of that period, she was, there defending him. So no, she did do something quite interesting, like a couple of days ago, saying like, I understand why some people are mistrustful of me, and I understand that there were abuses committed in the past, but now I'm the candidate for democracy against the communists.
Yeah. And so actually someone in this stream, interestingly enough, wrote, my mom's Limean family is voting for Fujimori. Unfortunately, the media fear-mongers a lot about Venezuela migration, communism, and there's still racism against the indigenous.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, Peru is kind of is a demographically unbalanced country because the city of Lima, which is one city, constitutes like 40% of the electorate. Because like when neoliberalism was first introduced in Peru, the prices of agricultural goods collapsed. So people in the countryside were, starving. So there was this mass migration to the city. So now Lima, like, is too big, and it gets all the resources. But people also, a lot of people, not everyone, of course, but lots of people in Lima sort of see themselves as kind of a separate country. We are Peru, and everyone else is this like weird separate country. And the press is, I would say, is quite extreme in how bad it is. I mean, I've always lived in countries with a terrible media. I think most people do, but Peru is quite something. I mean, one thing I read a couple of weeks ago was saying that because there's inflation going on now in Peru, like currently under the current right-wing government, and they blame that on Pedro Castillo. They said, Pedro Castillo is going to make you poor by turning us into Venezuela, but he's already making you poor. He's the reason that the price of chicken has gone up by like 12%. He's made you 12% poorer by raising the price of chicken because his popularity has scared investors, and that's why all this is happening. And there was one, like a couple of days ago, a front page of one of the newspapers, Peru 21, just saying, look, one bad thing that could come with Pedro Castillo is that he could provoke like a fascist coup. If he comes in, then, they'll end up being a fascist coup, and that's why you shouldn't vote for him.
Wow, that's very pragmatic.
So this is the kind of thing. And this is like mainstream. This is not like a,
Right.
Yeah, this is not like a really right-wing outlet. This is just like mainstream media.
They could just point to Bolivia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like a lot, especially Andean Peruvians, they look across the border as a model of what things could be. I mean, the price of like a tank of gas, I mean, for cooking and things in Peru is like 5 times higher than what it is in Bolivia. That's because Bolivia has nationalized gas,
Right.
And people see that as what could be. So despite all this propaganda, despite all this sort of constant media bombardment, people experience something else in their daily lives. There are times when propaganda doesn't work because it runs up against people's like experience in their day-to-day lives, and the experience for the majority of people has been of poverty, particularly this year with the lockdown measures and the pandemic, which has like destroyed jobs, left people locked at home without any support, starving essentially. So however much propaganda you put, like people are living through something real,
Yeah. And as always, we got the media, in the United States and England doing a really good job. I thought we could, as I always like going over some your tweets. You always have a good Twitter game. Let's see.
Thank you.
Sure, and feel free to point out any particularly bad actors, but we got a couple here already on thanks to your diligent and vigilant, diligent tweeting. Okay, so who's this guy? You got Simon Tagle, who's a British journalist in Peru.
He writes for Vice.
Right, and his biases, by the way,
trigger.
I mean, to be fair, the guy he does reveal his his biases, which are, according to his Twitter bio, democracy, science, rule of law, human rights, equality, sustainability. Cool. And he tweeted, being the democracy lover that he is, Peruvians will decide their presidential vote Sunday by which they fear less. An erratic, ill-prepared far-left candidate who continually contradicts himself, or a hard-right candidate charged with corruption who knows exactly what she wants to do once in power. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly tells the whole story. And he definitely is pushing the kind of like decisive, organized, they run the trains on time, hard right, but like it's going to be law and order and organized versus this guy who's erratic.
Well, he's talking about himself. He's talking about how he feels,
right, and he's right,
and
exactly.
how his friends feel, and how like the people he lives around feel.
Yeah,
And I think he's definitely portraying something real among this sort of centrist, liberal, middle class people in the capital city, who, you know, they're not leftists, but they also, you know, are not very particularly keen on sort of right wing populism and stuff. That exists, but that only exists within the capital city. This idea that no one is voting with like huge enthusiasm is wrong. There is, a large number of hard right, sort of middle upper class people who are enthusiastically voting for Fujimori, and there's a very large number of provincial, rural, working class people who are very enthusiastically voting for Pedro Castillo. What he's reflecting is the kind of like anxieties and dilemmas of this sort of liberal middle class, people like him. But what the polls show is that all of them are voting for Fujimori. So something interesting is the polls for Lima, for the city of Lima, at the beginning of this campaign had Fujimori like 32%, Castillo 30%, and then like another third like undecided. And that's was these people, these like liberal middle class people. But now what do the polls show? Pedro Castillo 32%, Fujimori 67%. So that means all of the undecideds have gone to Fujimori basically.
wow.
So I think we can see what's going on there.
It's funny. He's like both sidesing it in both senses.
Yeah, but also we're gonna vote for Fujimori.
Yeah. He didn't respond, right? Of course not, right?
No. Well, thus far hasn't responded.
Yeah. And any other particularly bad? Let's see, bad actors we want to go after. Let me see.
Well, there was a headline I quite liked on Bloomberg, which is saying that elites tremble at the prospect of this guy who might win, and that was the turn they used. Elites tremble, and
wow.
Yeah, it was good. Like, I mean, it was just like an honest like portrayal of what's going on, and yeah, I mean, the article itself was, I think, quite a fair reflection, but from a perspective of the sort of financial types behind Bloomberg saying, yeah, this is quite worrying. Like, he might actually win, and this is very, very concerning. And yeah, no, I like the article because it was like it was an honest like assessment by like the financial elites.
Yeah, it was showing, not telling, as they say. Let's see, we got it right here. Oh, of course, it's paywalled. What do I do about this?
It wasn't paywalled when I saw it.
Did you screen? Let's
recently.
See.
I mean, it wasn't paywalled yesterday.
Huh. It's also very interesting to see what their headlines are, like not the ones they write, but let's see what this one is. It's like the teacher rocking markets by taking on Peru's elite for the presidency. All right. Okay. Let's see if we can screen grab that. Let's try to do that. Let me go at it.
But I mean, like, what I like about that is that it is more honest, and like a lot of the headlines in, say, like the New York Times or the Guardian have been based around the idea that, oh, Peru is caught between two extremes and people don't know what to do. And no, like, it is between two extremes because like a lot of people are very, very enthusiastic about each side. That's how we've got to this situation. So this idea that like a country is like doesn't know what to do, is caught between these two sides, like, not true at all. It's not true at all. Like, there's a very, very hardcore enthusiastic vote behind both candidates, not just Castillo.
Right. So I'll just read some of this. Elites tremble as Peru leftist taps anger over rising inequality. It's by Ana Maria Cervantes and Jim Weiss. Pedro Castillo was a little-known schoolteacher from the hinterland. Now he's made it to the runoff, striking fear into Lima's elite. Oh, you know what I can try to do? Let me do a I'll download it in the URL, the PDF type of thing. All right. Again, you guys always get to see how the Beyond Burger sausage is made on this show. Hold on a second. And okay, one second. And then I can just start reading it until I download it, though. Read part of it. At a recent rally in Lima, hundreds jostled to catch a glimpse of Pedro Castillo school teacher and union organizer who pulled off an upset to make it to the runoff for Peru's presidency. Supporters chanted "No more poor people in a rich country" as they waved an image of Tupac Amaru II, the indigenous leader who fought against Spanish domination almost 250 years ago and who has inspired revolutionary movements across the region ever since. Castillo's jubilant backers can barely believe that the son of illiterate Andean peasants has reached the June 6th second round vote on a platform that amounts to taking up the historic struggle to liberate the oppressed. Investors are shocked for different reasons, recoiling at the prospect that Castillo and his Free Peru party, founded by a Marxist, seem prepared to tear up decades of market-friendly consensus. He came from nothing, and now he's on the verge of being president, said Miguel del Castillo, a friend and advisor who's not related to the candidate. The Peruvian miracle exists. In reality, Castillo's rise is a consequence of the political upheaval sweeping Latin America as it's battered by one of the world's deadliest waves of COVID-19 and an economic crisis that has exposed and exacerbated longstanding inequalities. On Monday, Peru's official death toll almost tripled after a government review of data, giving it the highest per capita mortality rate in the world, according to Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center. And then they talk, the seeds of Peru's revolt were sown during 20 consecutive years of economic growth that pulled millions out of poverty and established the country as a relative safe haven in a turbulent region, at least until the pandemic hit. An economic slump of 11% last year focused attention on the fact that those gains haven't been evenly distributed. Perversely, some of the country's most mineral wealthy provinces, rich with copper, gold, silver, and zinc, are also its poorest. So...
So I mean, they explain the contradiction themselves. So it's not just like countries like Peru, like Chile, especially, were held up as myths of like this is an example of like stable free market democracy with growing economy, etc. Internationally, this is how it's portrayed. But I think now this moment has proved like that's not how people actually in those countries felt.
Right.
And both of those countries now are going through very, very deep crises, changes, transformational changes.
This is a great sentence, by the way. Shout out to these guys for the sentence. Castillo's program is as ambitious as his lack of government experience is daunting. At the center of his strategy are plans to force multinational corporations, particularly the mining companies that are the backbone of the economy, to leave more of their profits in Peru. He wants to promote rural development, plow 20% of economic output into education and healthcare, and shut down private pension funds. His flagship proposal is to rewrite the constitution crafted under President Alberto Fujimori, a document he says prioritizes business interests over human rights like public housing and organized labor. And then they describe her. They do say that she's at the other end of the spectrum, Keiko Fujimori, the former president's daughter. She's one of Peru's best-known politicians and one of the most controversial. Her father's in jail, and she's running her campaign while out on bail facing money laundering charges.
Oh yeah, that's something I forgot to mention. Yeah. She was actually at the beginning of the campaign. She was actually banned from leaving Lima, like she wasn't allowed to leave her home, and she appealed that, and they allowed her to like go to other provinces, but she's still not allowed to leave the country. She was invited to this like.
So she'll have to tend. She'll be a very focused person then, as president. She'll be a very focused president.
Yeah. Like last week, she was invited to speak at this like freedom and democracy conference in Ecuador with like various right-wing personalities, and she couldn't go. She's banned from leaving the country because she's been charged. Like she's been charged with money laundering and corruption, as is her father. So that's the sort of people.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, you didn't mention that, but because her father's criminality is so much more. It's hard. She just is a mere shadow of her father when it comes to that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's almost like not worth mentioning.
Yeah,
a given.
And she has called him a car bomb. Right? She's definitely played on the leftist violence trope. I'm just reading more in this article. She called him a car bomb who would explode the last 30 years of development into 1,000 pieces. And then, there was this incident where I guess he suffered because there was some kind of violent attack that killed it's being blamed on Shining Path.
Yeah. I mean, that was a massacre like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago now.
Yep.
In this sort of small town.
16
Gunmen
people. Sorry, I
opened.
think I said 6.
Yeah.
So 16 people were killed in a rural cocaine-producing region. And, of course, the military is blaming Shining Path.
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of raises the specter, leftist terrorism, etc. There have been like doubts cast on the official version of events. I mean, they opened fired in a bar, and then they sort of left these leaflets saying, "Don't participate in bourgeois elections." But the thing is, the Shining Path doesn't. I mean, it doesn't exist formally. All of its last leader was jailed in 2013, and the faction that operates there now is known to the DEA and to the Peruvian military as a narco-trafficking group rather than a political one. So I mean, I think there's just so much like there's not transparent about what happened, and it was like a very, very extremely brutal massacre. But I mean, Peru as a country is the second largest cocaine producer in the world after Colombia. You know, and it's not. It doesn't even that issue doesn't even really feature in the elections. You know, the fact that the two largest cocaine producers in the world are U.S. allies, at countries where there's the DEA, where there's like numerous U.S. military bases, whereas the countries that have reduced cocaine production, countries like Bolivia, are countries that have expelled the DEA and expelled U.S. military bases. But that's something that hasn't been an election issue really ever in Peru.
And anything else you want to say about what's happening in Peru? The two candidates, any predictions? Because
well, I don't want to burn myself on predictions.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the polls show them like tied, basically. However, you know, as I said at the beginning, Pedro Castillo's vote base is like 30% urban, 70% rural. That's pretty much the exact same demographic profile as the people who support the MAS in Bolivia. Right. And what happened in Bolivia last year was that all of the polls underestimated support for the MAS by around 10%, because it's harder to do polling in rural areas, lack of access to roads, often not great signals, so it's difficult to call people, and that's why every election they underestimate the rural vote. So if that's what's happening now, then that means Castillo's on for quite a large victory. But
so stay in line, guys. Stay in line if you're watching.
I'm not going to get ahead of myself, because I mean, I don't know if the ones in Peru are as useless and as absurd as the ones in Bolivia. Maybe they're like have more resources, maybe they're like less cack-handed. But if they are like the ones in Bolivia, Castillo will win with 55%. That was my prediction. Okay. If the pollsters are a little bit more professional than the Bolivian ones, then maybe it'll be a bit closer.
All right. And what is happening right now in Bolivia? Outside your window?
Bolivia, I mean, Bolivia now is in a phase of like economic reconstruction, because what happened with the coup was a total economic collapse. So what's interesting now is that all of the old development projects and state-owned industries that were closed down last year are now being reactivated. Just like in this region where I'm in of Cochabamba, there's 2 factories that have just been reopened that are owned by the state. One is a juice factory. They like buy fruit from the local community and they turn into sort of pulp and juice that can be sold. Another is a fertilizer factory that's set to produce fertilizer to export. And that was both of those things were closed under the coup. And they're profitable companies, and the profits of that go to the state, and that the state can then use that money to invest in, social spending. So all of those things are now being turned back on. The factory gates are opening again, and they're rebuilding that whole model of like state-led development, building state companies that can turn a profit and which provide the government with revenue. So that's what's going on. And early figures are good. Just a couple of weeks ago, they posted a growth of 5.5%, which is very positive. 40% drop in unemployment from 11% to about 6%. So there's progress, but it's going to be long because the damage was so deep. I mean, like in the nearest city to here, Cochabamba, they also under Evo Morales' government, they were building a metro system because like all of the public transport is based on like old buses from the 1950s that like break down, like they even set on fire like sometimes. So it's not great. So they're building this metro system, and it was all finished nearly, all the stops, all the rail tracks on the streets. But then the coup government stopped it. They cut the funding in the final phase, and it all just paralyzed. And people had to like walk around. People were walking around their streets with all the stops and the railroads, but without the service. And now that's being turned back on. So, yeah, it's just reviving the state-led development model, and hopefully that can once again be an example for other countries in the region.
And so things are going well there. Great.
Well,
right?
yeah,
Better?
it's going back on the right path. COVID now
Which is the left
is
path.
also not. It's a really difficult situation. You have these Brazil variants coming in, and Bolivia now is in its third wave of COVID. So that's incredibly difficult at the moment. Vaccines are arriving at a slow pace, like the rest of the global south, but they're arriving. I've already had my first dose of the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine. I'll be having my second dose on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to that, definitely.
And last time you were on here, we were talking about the how identity politics can be weaponized by the right, obviously. And I saw that you were tweeting. I guess some people are trying to use that to criticize Castillo, and what is that he's not better on identity politics. Can you speak to that, and also how he compares to Fujimori on those issues?
Yeah, so this is like quite an interesting thing that I think maybe those outside Latin America would have found it difficult to grapple with. And basically in Peru, there were two left-wing parties that were in the elections. One of them was a group called Nuevo Peru, who were like quite sort of urban-based, and they had a big focus on like LGBT issues, feminism, things like this. And then the second part, the sort of left-wing party, was Pedro Castillo's party, which is called Peru Libre, and they were more sort of provincial, rural-based, and they didn't have that focus. They focused more on like issues of class, poverty, things like this, and that reflected sort of the different social bases that they had. And the first party, that party focused more on feminism and LGBT issues, performed relatively poorly. They got 8% in the first round, whereas Pedro Castillo got 19%. So Pedro Castillo then became like the flagship left candidate. And as I said, their party is more rural based, is more working class, and they don't have a focus on these issues. And in fact, Pedro Castillo himself is Catholic. He doesn't support equal marriage. He doesn't support the legalization of abortion. He's not attacking these issues. He hasn't made it a campaign issue. This is certainly not a priority of his agenda, but he's not in favor of these issues in the way that the sort of more urban left is. So that has generated people saying like, oh, he's problematic. Oh, he's a social conservative. Whereas, I'm speaking to you now from a rural area of Latin America, of Bolivia, and he's not, in this context, he's not a social conservative. He's mainstream. This is what mainstream working class and especially rural Latin Americans think. There are people who are social conservatives, and they are far more radical, far more radical. Pedro Castillo represents the mainstream of opinion on these sort of identity issues, within Latin America. And I think people should try to understand that, and that there isn't a culture here in Latin America of, for example, pride being a ubiquitous thing that like all corporations and that all politicians from all different parties support. That doesn't happen. I mean, in the UK, for example, like Boris Johnson is the most right-wing prime minister the UK has had in decades, but like even he will, post a message wishing a happy pride to the country, and as will most, MPs
Right.
from the Conservative Party. That culture doesn't exist in Latin America. We're in the global north, Europe and North America, especially in cities, it's very unacceptable to be homophobic. That's not the case in Latin America. I mean, the percentage of people who would support things like equal marriage in rural areas is virtually nil, I think. That's certainly my experience, living here.
Right.
So yeah, people, especially working class rural people, they care about poverty, but also the majority are also religious. I once held an interview here with one of the most important sort of female union leaders of this region. We talked for a long time, even about her own struggle against sexism within the union, how she fought to become a leader. But when we came to the issue of abortion, she said, "No, I'm a Catholic. I'm a Christian. I don't agree with it." That's how people. That's the mainstream of culture, including or within the left, among sort of working class rural communities.
Also, though, I mean, you tweeted out something about how he got an endorsement from one of a trans indigenous organizer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's the party I mentioned at the beginning, the sort of the second largest left party that didn't get past the first round. And yeah, and like one of the founders is this trans activist. She was one of their candidates. And when they didn't get past the first round, they held a meeting with Pedro Castillo and signed a formal alliance with him. This wasn't a like passive thing, but a formal written down declaration that their two organizations were, standing as one in this second round of the elections. And she says that she was the one that proposed it. She claims to be the one that proposed this alliance. So I think that should give you an idea. She mentions a critical vote for Pedro Castillo. And in the thread that you're showing, like further down the thread, she, cites sections of their agreement in which he commits to, equality for minorities, against discrimination. So she saw that as like a positive like move on the part of Pedro Castillo.
Right.
It doesn't like, do away with his sort of his wider attitudes, but it was a sign of progress, and that they were happy to endorse him, and they're campaigning for him. That party's now, and this person as well is campaigning for Pedro Castillo. So
Yeah. And as she
yeah,
points
I mean,
out here, the capitalist system affects mostly, overwhelmingly affects women, indigenous people, and what is can you see this? What is género pobre? What is that? A la diversidad sexual y de géneros pobres? De género pobres.
Oh,
what
yeah.
does that mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, she's talking, it affects those, sexual minorities, and as well, like overwhelmingly, like more likely
Poor
to be in
people.
poverty as well.
Right. Right. I see. Yeah. Okay. Sexual, gender diversity, poor. Okay, got it. Now I see. Yeah. And also you and Camila were telling us on the show that like Evo has been moved, right? Evo Morales was moved on these issues by people, younger people.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, like a couple of years ago, Bolivia under Evo Morales passed a law, basically where trans people can change their gender on their like ID card. Because in Bolivia, everyone has an ID card. You have to have one, and it says your gender on it. And before you couldn't change that, and now you can change it. You can just go to your nearest sort of office and just ask to change it, and it will be changed. And I remember in an interview, Evo Morales, they asked him, if about this change, and he said, to be honest, I don't really understand the issue. I never really met trans people where I grew up in my village. I don't really understand the idea of like someone being a man and becoming a woman, or the other way around. But those around, like some of my ministers and allies, they proposed this idea and they explained why it was important, and it seemed, and I agreed. So we went ahead. They led on it, and yeah, we made that change.
Yeah. And it's not like Fujimori has this really great social.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And as I said, it's her father that led, as a matter of state policy, the forced sterilization of 300,000 indigenous women.
Yeah.
So that's what I consider social conservatism to be in the Latin American context.
I mean, literally like eugenics. So, and the nice thing, to be fair, it's an intersectional. It's an intersectional violence that straddles so many identities. The indigenous one, sexual reproductive rights. So yeah. Are any people who are the people who are actually doing that? He's problematic. Are these people like the reporter, the British reporter in Peru? Where's that argument coming from?
Yeah, those sorts of people. I mean, it's something I've seen in Western press, like, he's socially conservative. Right. He has launched attacks on feminists and LGBT community. No, not attacks. It's not been an issue in the campaign. It's not something that's like a priority in the campaign.
Yeah, it's lacking, but it's not. They don't put the context, the historical context, or present day context of what he's running against.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, as I said, it's just such a different cultural context in Latin America. You'll really be very hard pressed. And if and for a lot of people as well, they feel like they're being lectured to, being told that like these new sorts of forms of inclusive language, like words like Latinx or things like this, are very alien concepts for working class and rural people in Latin America.
Yeah.
And when people try and come and like impose it, it's seen as like a kind of arrogant little upper class thing that that's sort of being forced from the top down. So it's a very complex process.
Yeah. Someone asked in the chat about what is going to happen. And by the way, thank you so much, everyone, for your generosity. Just going to take a moment to encourage everyone here, even if it's just at a $1 level, you can join the Patreon, patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And one of the reasons I asked for that is because I always keep streams like this free, because this is such an undercovered story, and because Ollie's voice is so important, and what's happening in Latin America is so important, very neglected. Also, the Israel-Palestine streams are free. So I paywall some things, but never stuff like this. So again, just go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. It's my link. And of course, feel free to I'm really appreciative of your super chats and your thank you so much to the Irish gentleman, Niall. Is it pronounced Neil or Niall? I'm sorry, I don't know. You probably know, Ollie, but
no, it will be. If it's an A, it's not.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much. And someone in the chat, and I'm sorry I can't find it now, but someone in the chat asked about, is Arce in danger, given that there was this coup before? What has happened to the police, the military, the forces that supported the coup against Morales?
Yeah, I mean, the top brass of the police and of the military has been changed. A lot of them are like in jail now. Some of them, others have just been, demoted. And there is a new leadership in both the police and military. Does that mean that there's been like a structural change? Well, we don't know necessarily. Like, a structural change is something that has to be deeper, I think, and more cultural. And we don't know if it's hard to say at this early stage. But I think a lot of people within the mass are rightly pointing out that there's, a lot of the coup leaders, political actors behind the coup have not faced justice. People like Fernando Camacho, and now is now the elected governor of Santa Cruz region. So the slowness of the process of justice is definitely a concern. Definitely.
And can you talk also a little bit about Mexico and Colombia? We're doing
I mean, and Mexico has elections tomorrow as well.
Right.
Is two countries, and the Mexican elections, they're not presidential elections, they're congressional elections,
by the way, thank
elections.
You, Roberto, for the question. That was who asked him. Sorry. Yeah.
They're sort of midterm elections, right? And it's kind of expected that the party of government, which is Andrés Manuel AMLO, is going to win. And he has an approval rating. He's like a progressive president that's in power now. He has an approval rating of like well over 50%, normally around like 55 to 60%. And that's been consistent the whole time he's been in power. But parallel to that, you've got like a really, really serious like campaign in foreign media to attack him. And I think the Mexican elections will always like have this foreign component because there's so many like Mexicans around the world, like in the United States, North America. So like The Economist came out a few days ago, I think last week, with this front cover of AMLO saying Mexico's false messiah. And there was another article in The Nation.
Actually, I know, what the hell? I'm opening that up right now.
Saying he's a disappointment, and I just found it such a strange turn of phrase, because if you want to write an article criticizing the government about this X, Y, and Z from your perspective as an American writer, because the person who wrote it is American, then okay, cool. I mean, that would be an interesting piece. But what is, I think, very, very wrong is to say that he has disappointed this country when the majority of the country endorses his presidency. You're ignoring, in the words that these people might use, you're erasing the experience of the actual majority of the people in that country. So how is that, how is that a fair portrayal in any way? And like, I think in that tweet, I mean, just who's he disappointed? He's disappointed you, as a sort of.
I'm sure he has one
American writer,
right? I'm sure they found a Mexican who says that they're disappointed, but he's the Mexico whisperer. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm not trying to say like this guy's like perfect, whatever. I mean, I'm not Mexican. I don't have any skin in this game. But if you want to criticize certain policies, whatever, that's fine. But if you cannot speak on behalf of the country when the majority of the country thinks the exact opposite of what you're proposing. So, this tendency to sort of these foreign writers to speak on behalf of the country that they're writing about. It happens all the time, and it's deeply annoying.
Yeah, it is really annoying. I'm trying to get the rest of the article, but I see that for the past 25 years, Lucia Mixota has sold cactus pads in the sprawling Hidalgo market in the Mexican city of Puebla. But since the pandemic started, sales of the cactus pads, called nopales, and considered a staple of the Mexican diet, have dropped precipitously. Before the pandemic started, I could sell 1,000 or more nopales every day. Sorry, 1 second. I'm lucky to sell 500 or 600, she told me, through a black KN95 mask. So,
well,
there you go.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
the pandemic came to Mexico, AMLO. And what did you do, AMLO?
I wonder how this disease went from, the United States to Mexico. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as I said, completely fair enough if you want to, analyze the government, the policies, and say X, Y, and Z. Just those just don't say he has disappointed Mexico when he's about to win a landslide in the elections tomorrow. That we can say with a certainty that AMLO is going to win the elections tomorrow. That is,
Right.
I'm happy to like go on record to say that. I'm not going to, Pedro Castillo it's going to be we don't know. Polls show that they're neck and neck, but AMLO is going to win. He's going to win by over 50% tomorrow. So that's, but no one will say it. No one will call them out afterwards. Oh, how come you said that he's disappointed Mexico, but he just won the elections? No one's going to point that out. It's just going to go, be forgotten in the annals of history.
And then also, let's see. You actually, Casetron has a very good, interesting article about how Ecuador loaned tear gas and ammo for Áñez's coup. So Lenin Moreno, who took over for Correa, was, it turns out, you guys have this piece up at Casetron, that they, his regime killed 11 indigenous people during Ecuador's October 2019 uprising, and then 1 month later supplied Áñez with anti-riot materials to be used to violently repress indigenous Bolivians. So there's another.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just showed there is, there is a sort of solidarity and cooperation between these right-wing governments, often coordinated by the United States. But yeah, I mean, but I just think like the timeline of it is interesting, of how Ecuador had their own bout of repression just as the Bolivia, which ended just as the Bolivia coup started. I was there in Ecuador in sort of mid-October when there was this anti-IMF uprising in the capital, which was brutally repressed. I remember I was there with, when protesters were carrying coffins through the streets, and just right as that finishes, all the tear gas they got left, they just give it to Áñez. So it gives you an idea of how these people work.
Yes, corporate welfare, corporate solidarity.
Exactly.
And then okay, so we talked about Mexico and Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, Colombia is extraordinary. I mean, they're now been protesting every single day for over a month. Of daily protests in most of the big cities. Like roadblocks held by sort of indigenous groups along many of the key highways. And it's extraordinary in a country where, if you are a prominent leftist, you're a prominent organizer, union organizer, you get assassinated, at a rate of 2 or 3 people per week. But now people seem, the fear that has reigned for so long has sort of has begun to evaporate, and you have this sort of sustained protest movement. We'll see what happens, because Colombia has elections next year as well, 2022, as does Brazil, and the polls show that the left-wing candidate Gustavo Petro is first in that as well. So we'll see what happens and how this sort of this movement could have an impact there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I always think it's extraordinary, because Colombia is the last place that I thought that this sort of movement could take hold in the way that it has. It's such a violent country, such a culture of repression embedded in the government, and they have employed the deaths are around 70, I think. The terror has been, planted in the population, but even despite that, people still keep coming out.
Yeah, and of course, many Mexican politicians have been killed.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's like a regular fixture.
Right.
Of
yes.
Mexico
right. Yes.
For,
I should. Yeah.
For a long time, is that people would just get assassinated, right?
Right.
And especially sort of outside the bigger cities. And yeah, and that's still the case. I mean, people. That's the basis of the article, I think, is that the enormously complex problems that Mexico has, and Mexico does have enormously complex problems stretching back many, many decades, that because AMLO hasn't been able to fix this within like 2 years.
Right.
He's halfway through his first term. Like, because he hasn't been able to fix this within like 2 years, that means that he is a disappointment. Whereas if you actually, I was actually in Mexico in January, and what a lot of people said was, yeah, the situation is bad, like with the pandemic and other issues, but I can't imagine how bad it would be if we still had like the old neoliberal parties in power. It'd be unimaginably bad, and that's how I think. That's how the majority of people think, and that's not me, my impression. That's what polls say. Polls published in right-wing newspapers and stuff like this. So I think there should be a recognition and a respect for that, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny how, I mean, it took the media, the Western media, so much time, so long to even start covering what was happening in Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, there's especially because there's so many Latin America correspondents based in Colombia, and like none of them said anything till like a week of protest, and
Right.
it was evident that they couldn't ignore it any longer. But yeah, I mean, they're hoping it probably was going to fizzle out, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing when this sort of thing happens in Colombia, in Chile, in Peru, because these were supposed to be sort of darlings, the exemplary students of the United States.
Yeah. Any other Latin American countries you want to tell us about? What else is happening now? Let's see. Chile,
No, I mean,
Argentina.
just as a whole, Latin America is going through a really difficult moment with the pandemic. Peru, actually, just a couple of days ago, became the country with the most deaths per capita.
Right.
Number one. That's incredibly serious, and it's not just that so many people be infected. It's the fact that there's not the health infrastructure in any country. No governments in the region can afford to like pay people to sit at home forever. So you're caught between the decision: do you impose a lockdown? But the price of that is paid by the poorest, who suddenly lose their income. Whereas, like, for example, the Bolivian government, since the mass one, has not imposed any lockdowns. There's been the second wave, there's now the third wave, and the government has not imposed a lockdown. And that's because that is the demand of the social movements, of working class communities, say we refuse to do lockdowns. We have to work. We live off what we sell and our day labor with each day. And when the lockdown was imposed under Agnes, under the coup, that triggered the mass impoverishment of the population. So the mass government has not imposed more lockdowns. They're focused on hiring more nurses, trying to bolster the health system, but without imposing any lockdowns.
Okay. And anything else? Any more questions? Anything else you want to talk about? Any articles you're writing? Any scoops? Everyone should really. Well, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. I mean, I just wanted to say, I think the elections in Peru are tomorrow, in Mexico as well. But I think Peru in particular, we're going to be covering a lot, and like the fallout there's going to be over the next few days, I think is going to be really important. So people should definitely keep an eye out on that on our pages.
Yeah, and let me just go to this is here is make sure everyone follow this. Cosechon News. And they also have their English language, which is the English language one, and then this is the Spanish language one. And we got Evo solidarity, of course, with Palestine, and
there's a bit of Mexico.
A bit on Mexico, yeah. What should I show? Any videos I should make sure to show? You guys always have really good clips. This is the article I was just mentioning. Oh, and here, just so you can see, look at these crowds that are pretty amazing.
Oh, yes. This is a comment I made earlier today, was that look at his jacket. He has a fake Adidas jacket.
It's great.
It's not an original Adidas. It's a cheap ripoff, which I think is great, because that's what ordinary people wear in Latin America,
Yeah.
It'd be considered deeply embarrassing, I think, in richer countries. But here, yeah, I mean, it's just a sign of his culture. It's great.
And this is the symbol of his being a teacher, the pencil?
Yeah, the pencil, it's the people's pencil. They're going to write the new constitution.
Oh,
I think
right.
it also has it has a deeper meaning as well, because like, who uses pencils? Like, middle and upper class people don't even use pencils anymore.
Right.
Like people have
That's true,
tablets, people have computers. The people who use pencils are poor and working class people. So even that is like an expression of who they are and what their base is.
Then you got big endorsement from Lula.
That's right.
In case that's and then what else? Let's see.
This is someone
Can you guys hear this?
Lima at the closing rally.
Is the sound playing?
I can't hear it, but
okay, 1 second.
I don't know if others can.
Sorry, 1 second. I meant to cut this off. Okay, 1 second. Screen. Where are we? Here we go. Okay.
Enseñaron a nosotros. Yo voy a votar por el señor Pedro Castillo por un cambio real y verdadero, porque cuando es una democracia libre e independiente, nos dejan votar por quien uno crea conveniente. Y el señor Pedro Castillo es una persona honesta, honrada y trabajadora. Y es un maestro. Y tenemos que agradecer a todos los maestros del mundo, porque gracias a ellos aprendimos a leer y aprendimos a escribir. Y nunca nos enseñaron a nosotros que corrupción es lo mismo que democracia. Por eso voy a votar por Pedro Castillo, por un cambio real, para que nuestro pueblo sea libre e
She's good spokesperson, yeah. And here's
fuera del Perú. Sé que salieron de esta parte. Mi reconocimiento a los casi 2 millones de peruanos que están fuera del Perú. Sé que salieron de esta patria porque justamente no encontraron una patria que los cobije. Pero lo que se han ido a buscar allá, asumiendo nuestro mandato en nuestro gobierno, la tendrán inmediatamente. Queridos compatriotas, saludo a través de ustedes a la familia peruana y creemos importante manifestar que nuestra lucha no cesará en el marco de un gobierno del pueblo e igualdad de oportunidades para todos. No puede haber más discriminación al pueblo peruano. Salieron de este país, cogieron una botella, cruzando desiertos, y espero de que estos hermanos que hoy estamos acá, también apenados por lo que se han ido, y a muchos compatriotas que fallecieron también en el marco de la pandemia, no solamente mi gesto de solidaridad, también sin mi pesar y mi indignación, vuelvan, queridos hermanos, para hacer esta patria grande, no más pobres en un país rico. Palabra de maestro.
Word of the teacher. No. So everyone should definitely follow Ollie's Twitter. Definitely subscribe to Quechua News. This is some greeting Arce in Bolivia, the president. When is that from? They're still wearing masks, right?
A couple of days ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, thousands march in Lima against corruption, Fujimorismo, and the Neoliberal project represented by the presidential candidate. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I keep saying any last words. It's my famous Jewish goodbye, but anything you want to make sure people do, well, definitely go to your Twitter, the Twitter of Quechua News.
Yeah, no, as I said, definitely follow us over the next few days for coverage of the elections in Peru. It will be some of the only coverage in English, and I think this could be historic elections, so it's worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, People's Pencil and Faux Adidas, Viva la Revolución. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys. And Sparky has a suggestion that we need a modern day Simon Bolivar to unite South America against the imperialist USA, Euro globalists, and China. All right. Let's see. All right. Yeah, modern day. I like it. Let's get it done. The Bolivarian Revolution.
Yep. with lots of fake Adidas.
Yeah, Adidas. Yeah. They don't. Do they say Adidas or Adidas in England?
Adidas, you say.
Oh, they say that in England. Adidas. That's one. Yeah.
In original English, in the Queen's English.
Oh, okay. Where is that? Where are they from?
The German, I think. Adidas.
Oh, okay. Then probably it's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for all your time, and we'll be checking in with you. And I'll stay on for like 5 minutes to just talk to chatters. Thank you so much, Ollie.
No, thank you, Katie. And yeah, anytime. Always enjoy these chats.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. That was great. That was great. We just got a little bit of an update. I mean, I was trying to give, how bad I am with the Jewish goodbyes. I never know where to end the stream. So I tried to give him, some time I didn't want to keep him on forever, but he's great. By the way, not important, but this is chalk. This is not permanent. I bought my 6-year-old friend who you saw. Remember my 6-year-old friend? I bought her like chalk for the hair, which I also indulged in. Just going to encourage everyone, if you can, of course, please consider donating to the Patreon. You can become a Patreon supporter for just $1 a month. Of course, I encourage you to become a Patreon for more, because then you get, exclusive content. But I'm committed in this era of paywall only content. I'm very committed to providing people with, free content. And I want to thank you, Chris C. Wow. Thank you for becoming a donor, a Patreon supporter. What else? Anyone else want me to read their name? Want to become a Patreon supporter? You can do it. I believe in you. You really can. I did not stream yesterday. I streamed on Thursday. Yeah, today's Saturday, and I'm gonna stream tomorrow. But I wanted to do one because the Peruvian election is tomorrow, so I wanted to get ahead of it. I guess I could have, because I want to get the vote out, guys. If you're watching this, vote Castillo. Anyone who's out there on the fence, not sure about who to vote for, whether it's the Fujimori or the Castillo, this is going to sway. This could really move things. Get out that Katie Halper show vote for people undecided between the dictator's daughter and the teacher. Yeah. Anyway, but now, it just sparked some interest. And I think that's it. I don't know what time the results are tomorrow, but I just wanted to say hello. I wanted to stream about this a little bit. And if anyone knows anyone think of some good clips about this, so we can get some clips out about this, about the Peru stuff to, get out to vote. I know it's a little ridiculous, but this is interesting. I didn't know that Adidas came to prominence after making track shoes for Jesse Owens for the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Wait, I showed that. Now I have to check if that's true. It's probably like one of the most famous things ever, and I'm just such an idiot about sports. Wait, is this true? Oh, he did, according to the Vintage News. Jesse Owens secretly wore German shoes at the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin. Sparky, do you have the link for that? Because I realized that, someone's got it. Let me know if there's a link. So right now that's conjecture, because I have to. I'm pissed now. Later, don't forget to ask for money if she commissions you. What are you talking about? And let me know if there's anything on that. We'll send that clip then. Anyone know? All right. I'm really tired. My eyes are very bloodshot. See, I'm oversharing as usual. What happened to Bodhi? Bodhi, I'll get Bodhi. You can't post links in the chat. I thought you can on YouTube, no? All right. Well, if you just tell me where to look. Anyway, all right. I should go to sleep. All right. I'll bring Bodhi. If you guys want to wait, you guys have to watch a video, and I can grab Bodhi for a couple of minutes, but there's not going to be anything on the screen. What can I play? Oh, if someone shows me a video of get me a video of anything. What was it? Castillo talking about Castillo talking about. Oh, okay. So Sparky was going off the top of his head from decades ago. So I'm saying that because we can't give that the actual truth, endorsement. But I can try to get Bodhi on, but I need a video to play. Where's Castillo? I need a Castillo video, or I can play a Cassetron video. Hold on. I really should just go to sleep though. I'll show Bodhi next time I stream. Okay. Oh, this is good to know. Where is this? You can post links. That's good to know. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep now. And anything else? Thanks for watching. Let's see. We're gonna get more patrons. Let's see if we got any more. Yay! Thank you. Oh my God, we got 2 new Patreons. So 3. We got Chris C, we got Aaron W, and we got Ilan. So thank you so much. And people who are just watching, if you want to become Patreon supporters at the $5 level, such great stuff. We got some Roger Waters exclusive content. We got some Thomas Frank exclusive content. We got some petty Katie Halper reading her trolls exclusive content. And upcoming, we're going to have some really great Patreon only content that you'll have to wait and see for. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to. Yeah, I would love to have Bodhi. I could bring Bodhi, but I'm so tired. I think I have to practice saying no. Right? I got to. I mean, if I'm going to be around, I got to, I can't burn out too much. But yeah, everyone, there's really great content on the Patreon right now. I need to, yeah. And again, if you can't afford it, if you can't afford more, then, of course, you can just do the $1 level. But thank you so much for this. Wow, thank you. Whoa, what's ZAR? What's ZAR? Thank you for all of this. Thank you. What is ZAR? And if I didn't thank you guys already, then I really want to thank you. Bring Bo. I can. I have to walk in. All right. Let's see. Great work. Okay. I am going to get off, but this was great. Again, thank you so much, Ollie. Yeah, self-care. Thank you, Pseudonymous 1000 for joining. It's like $5 in the US, but it's South African. South African. All right, yeah, we're gonna have to have a special guest on to talk about Adidas and Jesse Owens. Well, what does it say about Jesse Owens? Why not boycott the paywall news content? What's that? Okay. All right. Bye, everyone. This has been great. I'm going to post some clips also. We got a good, what is settler colonialism stuff. And I think that's it. Yeah, I'll bring Bodhi on soon. I'll bring her on later this week, okay? All right, history. Now I really want to know what it is. What does it say? What does the History Channel say? Let's see. Guys, throw me some Patreon donations while I stay on to do this. Hold on. History Channel. I gotta get glasses. What am I looking for? History Channel. Jesse Owens. Yes. Okay, we got 10 things you might not know about Jesse Owens. Let me do an Apple F. Adidas. Owens ran to gold in German-made track shoes handcrafted by the founder of Adidas. German shoemaker Adolf Adi. Oh, sorry, someone was reading that. I think Adi didn't view the Berlin Games as a vehicle for Nazi propaganda, but as a chance to launch his humble athletic shoe business. He successfully lobbied not only German athletes, but Owens as well to wear his personally handcrafted leather track shoes with extra long spikes. The American's triumph helped to launch his business, and a decade later, Dassler would start his own company, Adidas. So you were right. You were right. Thank you, Sparky. You were right. I'm sorry I doubted you. Was that when Roosevelt refused to shake his hand? What? He didn't shake his hand. That was Jesse Owens. Yes. Okay. So, guys, everyone, guys, we'll check in. We'll see what happens with the Peru stuff. And all right. Katie, don't know what that means. Okay. Thank you guys so much. And I don't know why people are not getting is it true people aren't getting the notifications? That's not good. Oh, you know what you should do, right? Independent Left, they should join the Discord. And anyone who joins at the $5 level gets access to the Discord. But I think we're going to make it actually like we want everyone to have access to the notifications from Discord. Oh no, wait. How do we do this? What does this mean? You only saw on Twitter. All right, so I think Independent Left is I don't know what just happened. I think that's a sign. Wow, the polls show Castillo ahead. It would be great. Okay, so I don't know how to do that. We're going to work on that. Independent Left will help me with that, right? Open the Discord. Yeah. Did I have yeah. Oh, right. You can share the link with anyone. Okay. So we're going to make that public. We're going to open the floodgates. You could use your community tab to post about live streams, notification to go through. Oh, okay. So I should do that. All right. Too much to join for access. Well, okay. I'm sorry. You don't get notified by YouTube. I only lucked out when I saw on my sub feed. You can set up a text Whoa. Wow. Well, okay. I learned a lot tonight. Why is that? Is that like because of the politics or they're just bad at that, the YouTube thing? Guys, what's happening? I put it on the Katie Halper Show playlist, which is what I think makes it do that. All right. Well, we're going to have to. Oh, yeah. So how do I set that up? That text confirmation. Wow. What if I just spammed you guys all day? I texted you photos of Bodhi. I should do that. That's for like the super high level of Patreon supporters. What the hey, guys? What the hey? No, it's not on Rockfin. I'll get on Rockfin though. So people stream at the same time to Rockfin and YouTube. All right, I'll do that. Oh no, I won't do that because that may violate YouTube's terms of service. So can't do that. All right, for real, guys, this has been fun. You found out on Twitter, so I got to hit up all the social medias before I do that, huh? Oh, okay. Sorry. Kyle Smith. You know what, Kyle Smith? Don't apologize. So Kyle Smith tweeted as a joke underneath my Ted Lieu tweet where I went after him for saying, what was it? I went after him for like saying that like we should vaccinate India before Iran because we don't have enough vaccines to give everyone. And I guess Kyle Smith wrote this funny tweet saying like, that's not what he said. He's not America first because he wrote Americans first. So I made a tweet that said America first. And he was like, he joked. And I went on a rant about that. But honestly, no offense, Kyle Smith, you were just the bait because my bigger problem was with those really annoying, they say they're not trots, but I don't know what they are. They live to monitor. They're like Matthew Dimitri. Is that his name? They're like they have Matthew Dimitriitis. Oh, that's good. Matthew Dimitriitis. So that is people who, but isn't that good that it gave us that opportunity? Thank you, Kyle Smith. Because of you, I did that stream. And then I went into the bad guys, the real bad guys, not the fake trolls. But it's actually, honestly, I'm an idiot. I fall for sarcasm often, but that is not actually that bad. Like that is something that someone would tweet. Although the only thing that confused me about it, what did I think was weird about it? Was it that you called me fash? I think did you call me fash in that one? That's what made it weird. Cause I was like, what leftist would actually go out and defend Ted Lieu? But then I thought it was like a Sally Albright type of bot where they were just throwing anything against the spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. All right. You don't have to be, I was laughing, then I was disturbed, then I was sad, now I'm laughing again. Yeah, it was very funny. Okay. Well, I will see you guys soon. And Yeah, the fash part. All right. Yeah, that was funny. All right. I think that's about it though, right? All right. I'll see you tomorrow night. On the off chance that I don't stream tomorrow night, yeah, it triggered me. It did. It triggered me. Then I will see you another time. But I think I'm going to be streaming, and I have to actually reconfirm with my guest, and if it's going to be a really good one. Okay. Don't. But everyone, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I will just tweet for people who don't subscribe. It's okay, Matthew Levine or Levine, you missed the whole thing, but you know what? This one stays up. So you don't have that live experience, but you still get to see the whole thing. This was a Saturday stream, but I still don't get why people aren't getting notifications. Okay, I got to go to sleep. Thank you, Will. That's very nice. Actually, someone just texted me. 1 second. So I will let you guys know. I will do a community post about it, okay? What is this? How do I find you on Discord? Yeah, everyone, we'll put out a public public Patreon post and a community post. I don't know. I'm making promises left and right. I got to actually stick to my word. 1 second. Let me just see. So again, thank you so much. Did I get any more Patrons? It's okay, Bennett, because this was a good community stream. Make sure you guys follow Ollie. Yeah, my internet's acting up. I think that's why I froze. A ver. And then someone was like, nice attempt at Spanish. Yeah, it's late and I forgot. It took me a while to read the whole sentence about intersectionality and the socioeconomic, all that stuff. So sorry, but I actually can me defiendo in Spanish, as they say. Okay, what else? I'd say I do more than just defend myself, if I'm being honest. Katie. Oh, thank you. Katie, you are the best. Loving the Patreon. Thank you, Bilbo. I don't know what's notifications. What's wrong with them? Okay. Independent. That's his thing. Yeah, I'm going to have Brian. We're definitely going to have Brian. 1 second. No, all right, good. So, also want to thank Phantomas Fanta, also Video Chomsky. I don't know if they're in the chat, but yeah, thank you. Wait, where is that? There you go. Thank you very much. What the hell? What's up with the notifications not being working? All right. Wow, you guys are so nice. Okay. I think it's better than fun. I'm not going to lie. I mean, that sounds really obnoxious, but yeah, I will have Brian soon. Oh, look at this. Kyle Smith is so well-rounded and wholesome. Thank you. And I apologize. Roberto says, it's not true. Roberto says, I agree. Your Spanish is amazing. You even have a Castilian accent, much to my chagrin, because I used to have a Colombian accent. And then I went to Madrid, as they say in Spain, Madrid. All right. Well, yeah, I should do a UFO thing. I'll just say my thoughts on it. Will, I hope you're a Patreon. If it was me, I wasn't being sarcastic. Oh, wow. Thank you, Marino Vallejo. I'm like overdoing the Spanish. I study Spanish. Get the Barcelona. It's not just Barcelona. It's most of Spain. Can you do your Portuguese, Roberto? I don't know how to do it. Roberto. I can't do it. Have Ollie and Virgil. Yeah. Bree and Virginia. Oh, Virgil. Okay, I will. Yeah. I will. I do have to have them back on. Anyway, thank you all so much for this. This was great. And I will bring on Bodhi soon. New here, but pleasantly surprised with your Spanish. Thank you, Del Ortiz. Thank you. There you go. Brett B is a proud Patreon. And Katie, call Bodhi. I will. Yeah, I think my mom, by the way, I don't think my mom actually donated to the stream. I think someone with my mom's name did. I don't think my mom has a YouTube profile, but thank you to whomever made the Nora Eisenberg YouTube account. That was good. All right. This Jewish goodbye is awesome. Someone should do a mashup of me, just hours long, of me saying goodbye, then not leaving, a Jewish goodbye palooza. My high school sweetheart was Portuguese, called me that. Oh, that's nice. Oh, was your name Robert? I'm going to guess it is. I was bluffing about withdrawing my love, but you should still renounce Mike Pompeo. What do you mean renounce him? Like we were ever together or we ever a thing? Gotta get this. Is it like a whistle? What's okay. All right. I really do have to go to sleep. And yeah. No, my Portuguese is not, I mean, I never studied it. And yeah. I know Lina's the best. But she has to wear a mask or something. People get nervous about their kids on TV. Okay, Pompeii. Alrighty. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And I'm just going to say you can look forward to some pre-taped, not live, but I'll try to put that later. But we do have some pre-taped, some really great pre-taped programming for you. I'm going to release an interview that I did with Jules Gills, which is Jules Gill Peterson. Jules Gill. That's what. Okay, Jules Gill. One Gill Peterson. Okay, Jules Gill Peterson, who wrote Histories of the Transgender Child. So I interviewed her, and it's really good. I'm going to be releasing parts of that. And okay, yes, I'll give you that, Sparky. He is indeed dangerous. I've thought about it, and I've decided that I concur. Log off so I can watch this episode. Okay, so we got Jules, very good interview, and then pre-taped, and then we got some pre-taped Gabor Mate. Pretty good, right? Both of those will have mostly free sections. So don't worry about that. I fully denounce. Where's my Russian hat? I'm fully denounce Michael Pompeo. Yeah, you can just rewind and start fresh, but maybe he doesn't want to lose it in real life. So I have those things. That's pretty exciting, right? Yeah? Okay. Good to knock. I will see everyone. Gabor is great, right? No, you're not going to keep me up past midnight. In fact, that's a good... I know. Yeah, we talk about some of that stuff. It interrupts when she logs off. I like that. No, because sometimes I make it private, but I won't. All right, guys, everyone, remember, if you like this stream... Oh, we got another... thank you. The virtual Jonathan. Thank you so much. You know, I, of course, love... I'm very touched by the $1 levels because... they're not, you guys aren't getting, I mean, I shouldn't, why am I saying this? But it's because you're just supporting the show. I'll read all your names though, because you don't get the extra content, but I give so much content. I mean, you know, I'm always here for you guys. I'm always streaming. Yeah. Is that TYT Anna Kasparian Jank Aaron thing still going? We may or may not talk about it on Useful Idiots Substack only. Wow. Whoa. All right. So yeah, we'll have some more. We'll have some good stuff happening. All right. Oh my God, it's 11:56. I gotta go to sleep. Even free, my show is the best. I mean, yeah. Okay. Okay. It's Gabor, Gabor. Okay, well, you're broke, which is why I provide you with literally hours of free content. In an age when some people do almost everything on Substack or Patreon. Notice both of my shows, both Useful Idiots and this one, you don't have to pay. All right, I gotta go to sleep. I'm acting like you guys are begging me to stay on. Okay, bye everyone.